And that's how you make ice cubes. Hi, everybody. Good morning to you all. I thought the internet had shown me every cute animal there is to see. I was so wrong. My brother and I have what is either a marmot, or a groundhog living by the creek in our backyard. I'm thinking groundhog from my one or two sporadic Google searches, but I can't be sure. Anyway, we hadn't seen Mr. Groundhog in a few weeks, or maybe like a month and a half, which worried us. We missed him, you know? Lo and behold, Mr. Groundhog was actually Mrs. Groundhog, and she was given birth. This past week, two little ones followed their mother out to nibble on some grass and freshly fallen apple tree buds. They are the most adorable little creatures, running around on wobbly feet trying to keep up with each other. If they hear a little twig crack, they'll sprint back into the brush. But today, just when I thought it couldn't get any better, I saw 3 baby groundhogs. At first I thought there was 4, but the 4th was the mother, and she was just too far away for me to tell. Still though, I just hope their baby season, or whatever it's called, lasts through summer. I would love to see them grow up and maybe get eaten. Okay, so today is the 100th episode. Honestly, I almost completely forgot. I really had no intention to celebrate in any way, but I do want to thank everyone who supported me along the way. Andy, Jessa, Olivian, and now my parents are avid listeners. I've said it before, but I truly never thought I'd make it past 10 or 20 episodes. So this is amazing. Thank you to everybody. I was originally planning on covering another Mormon story as I had promised, but I felt an itch to bring it back to Germany. I love German history, and yeah, it will be a little bit shorter because nothing is written about this frickin' guy. Today, I bring you the horror of the Brandenburg Forest. My name is Eli, and this is Murder in the Morning. My sources for today come from ABC News, Wikipedia, and any others I will put down below. Brandenburg Forest, located in the western part of Germany, is known for its lush trails, winding rivers, and endless trees. It has a history few wooded areas can contend with. According to ABC News, over 30 years ago, a landscaper in Germany discovered a formation of trees in a forest in the shape of a swastika. Since then, several other forest swastikas have been found in Germany and beyond, but the mystery of their origins persist. It was an intern at this landscaping company who discovered the trees in 1992 as he was completing a typically thankless intern task, searching aerial photographs for irrigation lines. Instead, he found a small group of 140 larches, which is just a type of tree, standing in the middle of a dense forest, surrounded by hundreds of other trees. But there was a crucial difference. All the other trees were pine trees. The larches, unlike the pines, changed color in the fall, first to yellow and then to brown. And when they were seen from a certain height, it wasn't difficult to recognize the pattern they formed. In fact, it was quite striking. These people chartered a plane to fly over the area, and indeed, a neatly delineated swastika was clearly visible. A local forester by the name of Klaus Goricki set out to uncover the origin of such a troubling tree formation, and he found out that the trees had been there a long time. By measuring the trees, he came to the conclusion that they had been planted in the late 1930s. That means that for decades, during every spring and every autumn, a massive swastika took shape in the Kuzurer Heath, an area of Brandenburg Forest, surviving the Russian occupation, the communist rule in East Germany, and the fall of the Berlin Wall without ever attracting notice. It didn't take long for rumors to spread about how the swastikas got there in the first place. First, a local farmer claimed that he had planted the trees as a child, with the forester paying him a few cents for each seedling he put in the ground. Others then reported it was put there as a sign of loyalty after a nearby villager had been taken to the Sachsenhausen concentration camp by the Nazis because he had been secretly listening to the BBC. Still, another version holds that a local Nazi leader ordered the trees be planted on the occasion of Hitler's birthday. And finally, more fact than rumor, the Berliner Zeitung newspaper reported that it was planted in gratitude to the Reich Labor Service for building a street in Zernikow. Many different stories of how it got there, but still, it's a spectacle. And I will put a link to the photo. If it weren't such a symbol of hate, you might even call it art. No matter the origins, the swastika formation haunted this forest for decades. Meanwhile, another evil hunted the forest. In 1946, women began disappearing within Brandenburg Forest. Initially, either because the women were known sex workers or the fact that Germany's police force was so diminished from the war, the disappearance went largely unnoticed. Or did they? Between 1946 and 1948, numerous women came forward with similar harrowing stories. These women, often sex workers, would be approached by a man as they often were, flashing his money, trying to sweet-talk them, etc. And like usual, the woman would leave with said man. But instead of heading to a cliché motel or the secluded part of town, this man would bring these women deep into Brandenburg Forest. Here, he would beat and rape these women, sometimes leaving them for dead. Dozens of women started to come forward with the same story over these 2 years. Some were closer to death than others, some were just beat, some were just raped, but each time, they were brought to Brandenburg Forest. By 1948, 4 women were found dead, and countless others were attacked. According to Wikipedia, this person's actions triggered one of the largest post-war manhunt operations. The search was initially unsuccessful for several years, even though several of the surviving victims identified him early with a facial composite sketch. In 1948, after 2 years of terrorizing women, police got their smoking gun. On September 11, 1948, Elsie Bethke recognized a man she had last saw dining at a bakery with her friend in the summer of 1948. Her friend was subsequently attacked and raped by this man in Brandenburg Forest, and Elsie knew that she had to report this person. This is exactly what the police needed. They were able to match the facial composite sketch and identify the man as Willy Kimritz and arrested him only days later. According to Wikipedia, Kimritz was born as the 14th child in a working-class family and attended school until the 7th grade. After his confirmation, he worked as a farmhand and a coachman in the agricultural field. His first conviction of rape took place in 1936, where then he served 3 years in Gallnau prison. After his release, he married and had a child, and in 1943, he robbed his then employer, a wholesaler, and was again sentenced to 3 years in prison. During this stint, his wife divorced him and took the kid. In April of 1945, 2 years later, Kimritz and other prisoners in Gallnau were sent away to the west due to the approaching Red Army, whereupon he was finally released, again. After an interlude as a steward of a supply of the Soviet occupiers in which he was accused of embezzlement, again more robbery, he fled to his mother and then fled to Berlin, where he lived without a permanent residence, mostly with and around sex workers, making his living mainly through robbery and burglary. Until he started killing, that is. Okay, so after his arrest, during this interrogation, Kimritz confessed to luring women into the forest before raping and sometimes killing them. In total, he confessed to 4 murders and at least 45 rapes. Due to some procedural circumstance, it wasn't really explained, he was only convicted of 13 rapes and 3 murders. But Willie here was then sentenced to death, and on July 26th of 1950, he was beheaded by guillotine. So not only did those four swastikas survive many different empires, they also were there the entire time our friend Willie Kimritz was attacking, raping, and killing women without any of their knowledge. Just another eerie bit of backstory. But that, my friends, is the horror of the Brandenburg forest. Goodness, I love covering German stories. A swastika-growing forest? Okay, yes, please. It's finding little gems like that, which I truly enjoy when you just go down a rabbit hole and find something like Brandenburg Forest. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed that as well. As always, I do have another bonus bit for you on the other side if you'd like to stick around. But with that, I bid you adieu. Welcome back, folks, to another installment of Let Me Read to You What's Going On Today in the World of Criminality. A bit polarizing, this one. Written by Emily May Zakor of CBS. Quote, Missouri was planning to carry out its second execution of the year on Tuesday after Governor Mike Parson denied a request for clemency filed by inmate David Hosier. Hosier, 69, has maintained his innocence in the double murder for which he was sentenced to death. He submitted a clemency petition in the wake of multiple prior appeals, including one that the Missouri Supreme Court rejected 5 years ago when it unanimously upheld the state's decision to execute him. But the authority to commute Hosier's sentence or to halt his execution ultimately rests with the governor, and some lawmakers have, in recent days, called on Parson to spare his life. Hosier was placed on Missouri's death row in 2013 after being convicted of capital murder in the 2009 deaths of Angela Gilpin and Rodney Gilpin at their home in Jefferson City. The governor, who has overseen 10 executions since beginning his term in office, said Hosier killed the couple, quote, in a jealous rage, echoing the prosecution's argument during his criminal trial. Side note, I should have looked this up, but I wonder if overseeing 10 executions while in your during office is a lot or not. That could be interesting. Anyways, Hosier was convicted of fatally shooting the Gilpins during an armed burglary after previously having a romantic relationship with Angela. She and her husband were murdered around 1 month after Angela Gilpin ended the affair with Hosier, according to court documents. Miss Angela Gilpin had her life stolen by David Hosier because he could not accept it when she ended their romantic involvement. He displays no remorse for his senseless violence, Parson said in a statement Monday, announcing that Hosier's clemency petition was denied. For those heinous acts, Hosier earned maximum punishment under the law. I cannot imagine the pain experienced by Angela and Rodney's loved ones, but I hope that carrying out Hosier's sentence according to the court's order brings closure. End quote. Hosier already had a criminal record and owned firearms when the Gilpins were killed, and in the aftermath of the murders, Angela Gilpin's purse was found to contain an application for a protective order against him, as well as a statement saying she feared Hosier may shoot her and Rodney. Parson's office said Tuesday that, quote, Hosier, with a decades-long history of violence against women, would not let Angela reconcile with Rodney, stalking and harassing her for weeks before murdering her and her husband, end quote. Before the Gilpins case, Hosier was convicted and sentenced to prison for assaulting and seriously injuring another woman. Hosier's defense attorneys have, over the years, tried to appeal the death sentence on the grounds that no physical evidence linked Hosier to the murders. Quote, no confession, no eyewitnesses, no fingerprints, and none of David's DNA or other personal effects were found at the crime scene. The attorneys also argued that Hosier's prior conviction for assault should not have been admissible evidence in the Gilpin trial because it unfairly prejudiced the jury. His recent clemency petition focused mainly on Hosier's personal life. Much of the petition centered on a stroke Hosier suffered in 2007 that attorneys said left him with lasting brain damage, as well as the 1971 murder of his father and Indiana State Police Sergeant, which his defense characterized as a traumatic event that drove his mental health struggles into adulthood. Hosier went on to serve in the United States Navy and as an emergency medical technician and firefighter in Jefferson County. His health has declined in the last several months, with the petition citing heart issues that intensified in early May. U.S. Representatives Cori Bush and Emanuel Cleaver, both of Missouri, urged Parson to grant Hosier's clemency petition in a letter to the governor last week. They referenced the inmate's medical issues and mental illness and suggested that his former attorney's choice to omit, quote, vital medical information during the criminal trial could amount to a potential violation of Mr. Hosier's Sixth Amendment rights. Quote, Mr. Hosier's debilitating condition further emphasizes the need for clemency in this case. He does not pose a threat to those around him and deserves humane treatment as he suffers from heart failure, Bush and Cleaver wrote in that letter. Hosier told the Associated Press that he was unhappy with his current defense team's approach to the clemency request, which he thought should have been focused more on the lack of forensic evidence tying him to the Gilpin's death and less on his childhood or mental health or physical health. Quote, they did exactly the opposite of what I wanted them to do, Hosier said of the clemency petition. I told them I didn't want the boo-hoo, woe is me. All that stuff happened years ago, okay? It has nothing to do with why I'm sitting here right now. End quote. Whew. Okay, so there's that. That's what Missouri's dealing with at the moment. But the more I read about the death penalty, the more I disagree with it. And now I'm not talking about the case I just covered. Just kind of in general. Not just because killing is inherently bad or the old saying, fighting fire with fire, although that does play a large part. No, I can't stand the people pushing executions through on sketchy, wavering convictions or without proper preparation. Like I mentioned before, is 10 a lot of executions for a term as the governor? But those are the kind of things that lead to innocent people's executions or the countless botched executions I've talked about previously. Why not wait? Make them suffer in a jail cell just on the off chance that they might be innocent, that the jury was wrong. And if they are guilty, if you were right, no harm done. They're still your prisoners. They're still under your control. Ugh. Sorry, I hate to get all riled up before I end an episode. It's just one of those frustrating things. I don't know about this David Hosier guy, but let's just be a little bit more patient, huh? Let's just not kill as many people, huh? Anywho, I believe that will do it for me today, folks. Again, thank you all from the bottom of my heart, helping me reach 100 episodes. It's crazy. I still cannot believe it. Who knows, maybe we'll even see 200. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, everybody, and I will see you next week for the Dalmatian special. Okie dokie. Bye-bye. Love you.